Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling something truly enormous. We're sifting through a huge amount of material to understand one of the most famous concepts in all of science fiction.
And when you say enormous, you're not kidding. We're taking a journey to the Ringworld. We're going to be extracting not just the sheer scale, which is, well, it's almost incomprehensible, but also the bizarre life, the twisted biology, and the really high-stakes political drama that's playing out on this impossible structure.
Right. And our mission today is ambitious. We're not just going to say it's big. We really want to get into the philosophical side of things. I mean, what does it mean for your entire world to be essentially a garden, designed and managed by these superior alien gardeners?
And what happens when that garden is left to run wild for a few million years? Who's in charge? You've got these immortal guardians, the protectors, who think they have all the answers.
Exactly. And caught in the middle of it all is our main character, Louis Wu. He's trying to navigate this multi-species war that is literally threatening to shatter the whole thing. It's a lot.
It's an overwhelming amount of information, absolutely. So we should probably take it piece by piece. And I think we have to start with the size. You can't understand anything else about it until you grasp the magnitude of what we're talking about. This isn't just a big space station. This is the ultimate enormous big thing.
I love that phrase. It's a great reference to David Gerald, and you see it in things like Clark's Rendezvous with Rama. But the Ringworld, it just takes that idea and dials it up to a level that feels like it should break physics. So let's get into the core specs, the basic measurements.
Okay. So when we talk about scale, forget planets for a second. The Ringworld, as a structure, has about the same mass as the planet Jupiter.
Wait, the mass of Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system.
The very same.
Mm-hmm.
But all that mass isn't in a ball. It's been distributed into this incredibly thin, incredibly long ribbon. Specifically, it's just under 1 million miles wide, about 997,000 miles to be precise.
Almost 1 million miles from one edge to the other.
And its circumference, so the length of the ribbon, if you looped it all the way around, is 600 million miles.
600 million miles. That number's so big it's meaningless. Can you put that in context for us?
Sure. The Earth's orbit around our sun is about 584 million miles. So this ribbon is actually larger around than the path our own planet takes around the sun.
Yeah.
It's vast.
So if you were standing on it, you wouldn't even be able to see the curvature. It would just look like a flat plane that extends forever.
Forever in every direction. And all of this is built around a star, of course. A yellow dwarf star, a G3 verging on G2, so just a little smaller and cooler than our own sun, Sol.
Okay, so you have this ribbon, 1 million miles wide, circling a star. The big question is gravity. How do you live on the inside of a spinning ribbon?
That's the elegant part. The whole structure is spinning. And it's spinning at a ferocious speed, 770 miles per second.
Per second, not per hour.
Per second. And that incredible spin creates a centrifugal force that pushes you outward toward the inner surface of the ribbon. The math works out so that you feel almost exactly 1 Earth gravity. It's 0.992 G.
So it would feel perfectly normal to stand on. But at that speed, what keeps the atmosphere from just getting flung off into space?
That's where the engineering goes from just big to completely impossible.
Yeah.
On each edge of that 1 million mile wide ribbon, there are walls, rim walls, and they rise 1,000 miles high.
1,000 miles, straight up.
Straight up. And those walls, combined with the spin, are enough to contain a breathable atmosphere for millions of years. This creates a stable environment across a surface area that is, well, it's 3 million times the surface area of the planet Earth.
3 million Earths. My brain just shuts down trying to imagine that. It's basically an infinite world.
Functionally infinite for any normal biological life form, yes. But it raises that question you touched on earlier. How does this thing not just tear itself apart? A 600 million mile long bridge with no supports, spinning that fast, the tensile strength required is astronomical.
Which brings us to the magic ingredient, right? The building material.
The most important substance in the known universe, according to the source material, it's called skrith. The entire floor, the rim walls, the foundation of the whole thing is made of skrith. And it's described as having unnaturally, impossibly strong properties. The sources claim that if you tried to pull it apart, you would generate showers of quarks from the stress before the material itself actually failed.
So its atomic bonds are stronger than the fundamental forces holding atoms together. That's not engineering, that's borderline magic. It's rearranging the laws of physics.
It's a material so advanced that it allows this entire concept to exist, which is a perfect transition into our first section. how you manage an environment this impossible and what kind of life decides to call it home.
Right, because the first problem you'd have living on the inside of a ring is the sun. It would just always be noon, wouldn't it? The star is always right there in the middle.
It would be, and that would be an ecological disaster. Constant, direct sunlight would scorch everything. So the climate control system is one of the most elegant parts of the whole design. They use something called shadow squares.
So they're literally just giant squares that block the sun.
Exactly. Huge, massive plates that are in their own orbit, but closer to the star, inside the main ring. And as they orbit, they pass between the sun and the surface, casting these enormous shadows and creating a regular cycle of day and night.
Simple and effective. But I remember reading that even this caused arguments among the original builders.
It did. There was a whole design controversy.
Sure.
The sources mention a debate where some engineers argued that 5 long shadow squares orbiting in retrograde, so going the opposite direction of the Ringworld's spin, would have been a more efficient way to manage the light-dark cycles.
So even the godlike alien engineers had design meetings that ended in arguments. That's strangely comforting. Okay, let's talk about waste management. 3 million Earths worth of biomass. That's a lot of recycling to handle.
A truly staggering amount. And you have to remember, the engineers who built this were described as gardeners. They cared about aesthetics and control more than, say, a wild, self-regulating ecosystem. Their solution for recycling is just as monumental as everything else.
It has to be.
They have a vast system of pipes. These pipes run from the bottom of the oceans, go underneath the Skrith floor, and then travel all the way up the inside of that 1,000-mile-high rim wall.
Up 1,000 miles. And then what?
And then right over the edge. All the sea bottom ooze and organic waste, which the locals call flip, gets pumped out and deposited on the outside of the rim wall.
Where it just piles up.
It piles up into what they call spill mountains.
Spill mountains! That sounds so mundane for something that must be enormous.
They're not just hills. These things are 40 to 50 kilometers high, leaning against the outside of the rim. They are literal mountains made of recycled organic matter. It's a monument to the Ringworld's endless cycle of consumption and disposal.
And people live on them?
Some of the hominid species have adapted to living on them, yes, using them as high-altitude settlements. It just goes to show you, life finds a way even on a mountain of trash, 40 kilometers high.
That detail really drives the scale home. Even their garbage dumps are the size of mountain ranges. Now, speaking of scale, you mentioned the Ringworld is inherently unstable. How can something that massive be unstable?
It's like trying to balance a hula hoop on your finger. Any slight gravitational pull from a passing moon or planet, or even the uneven pressure from the solar wind, can nudge it off center. If it shifts even a little, it could drift into its sun.
Which would be bad.
Catastrophic. The end of everything. So to prevent that, they need constant course correction. Atop the rim walls, there are these immense attitude jets.
Not just regular rockets, I'm guessing.
No, these are boosted ramjets. They don't carry their own fuel. They scoop it up from the solar wind harvesting protons from the star itself to power these continuous, powerful thrusts. They keep the entire structure perfectly centered.
So if those jets ever fail...
The whole system is doomed. Stability isn't a passive state for the Ringworld. It's an active, ongoing process that requires hyper-advanced technology running perfectly all the time.
It's a miracle it's lasted for millions of years. Okay, so we have this perfectly managed but incredibly fragile environment. Let's turn to the biology. The gardeners. What did they plant in their garden, and more importantly, what did they weed out?
They weeded out anything inconvenient. They wanted a safe, comfortable paradise for their ancestors, the pack breeders, so they systematically eliminated what they called the nastier life forms.
Like what?
Mosquitoes, flies, jackals, sharks, vampire bats. Basically anything that stings, bites, or preys on hominids. They tried to create a world without predators or pests.
But in doing so, they created a massive ecological vacuum, didn't they? They just left all these empty jobs in the food chain.
They did. And nature, even an artificial nature like this one, abhors a vacuum. And the terrifying part is how that vacuum was filled. It wasn't by new insects or animals from other worlds. It was filled by the hominid.
The human ancestors.
Yes. The story is that Homo habilis was seeded on the Ringworld, protected and nurtured until their population numbered in the hundreds of billions. And then, for reasons we don't fully understand, they were just abandoned, left to mutate and evolve on their own across this vast, empty landscape.
And they filled the empty roles?
They fissioned into this bewildering variety of new species, some intelligent, some not. And they became the new jackals, the new wolves, the new vampire bats.
So the gardeners' greatest failure was that the species they were trying to protect ended up becoming the very predators they had tried to eliminate.
It's the ultimate irony.
Yeah.
And we see some of these bizarre results play a huge role in the story. You have the night people, also called ghouls, who are nocturnal predators.
Right, like Toonsmith.
Exactly. Then there are the hanging people, who are brachiators living in the trees, like giant apes. You have burrowing people, and the really tall, herbivorous giraffe people, who are called the hinch.
It's just incredible to think that one ancestral stock could diverge so wildly. It speaks to the immense environmental pressures on a surface that large.
Absolutely. When you have 3 million Earths to fill, specialization becomes the key to survival. And it happened fast and aggressively.
So for an outsider like Louis Wu coming into this environment, it must be a constant state of shock. The scale, the culture, the biology. How does that sheer size affect something as simple as navigation?
It completely destroys your terrestrial intuition. Louis is constantly having to recalibrate his sense of distance. There's a great example in the source material. The distance from a landmark called Fist of God to another one, the map of Mars, is 4 times the entire circumference of the Earth.
So you could start walking and literally die of old age before you got there?
Easily. It's a land of too many powers of 10, as Louis calls it. And this environment, with its vast scale and dozens of coexisting hominid species, led to some really unique social adaptations. We should probably talk about Rishathra.
Yes, definitely. It's a fascinating concept.
It's a core social custom for many species, especially the giraffe people. And it's defined as friendly, safe, non-procreative, cross-species mating.
So it's a social ritual, not a biological one. It's a way of saying hello and establishing trust.
Exactly. When strangers meet, it's one of the first things they might ask about. It's a social lubricant, a way to immediately form a bond and show you mean no harm. For Louis Wu, it's a profound culture shock, but he learns it's a mandatory part of diplomacy.
What makes it safe, though? How does the biology support this custom?
That's the key. Because of the rapid and divergent evolution on the Ringworld, the different hominid species are biologically incompatible. There's almost no risk of cross-species disease transmission, and more importantly, 0 risk of pregnancy or hybrid offspring.
So they managed to separate the act of intimacy from the biological consequences of procreation, turning it into a purely social tool.
It's an engineered solution to interspecies cooperation. If you have hundreds of different intelligent species living side by side, you need a powerful mechanism to break down those barriers quickly. Rishathra is that mechanism.
Before we move on to the key players, we should finish our tour of the environment with the oceans. There are 2 of them, the Great Ocean and the Other Ocean. And they're more than just big bodies of water.
Much more. They're also preserves, yes, full of seagoing life. But their most incredible feature is that they contain enormous, 1-to-1 scale maps of entire planets.
Maps of what?
Maps of worlds that were important to the engineers. There's a map of Earth, of Mars, of the Kizan homeworld, and of the Pac homeworld. And these aren't just outlines, they are exact, living dioramas, with the terrain of the local ecosystems preserved exactly as they were millions of years ago when the Ringworld was built.
That's chilling. To realize your entire planet, your entire history is just a museum exhibit on a surface 3 million times bigger.
It really reinforces that Gardner philosophy, doesn't it? Everything here is for reference, for observation, and ultimately for manipulation.
Okay, that's a perfect pivot to section 2. Let's talk about the players, the people who are trying to manipulate this impossible garden, and the biological transformation that sits at the very heart of the conflict.
At the center of it all, we have Louis Wu. He's from Earth, 200 years old, and known for his insatiable curiosity. He's been to the Ringworld before, and now he's back. But he's on the run from the ARM, that's the amalgamation of regional militia.
The UN's police force, basically. Why are they after him?
Because he knows too much. He has what they consider proprietary knowledge about how the Ringworld works. But his physical status is what's really critical to the plot. He's not just a very old human.
Right, he's been rejuvenated.
Exactly. His own descendant, a man named Carlos Wu, invented an experimental nanotech autodoc, a medical machine that can rebuild you at the cellular level. Louis used it, and it essentially de-aged him. So while he's chronologically 200, physiologically he's much younger, and that specific age is crucial.
We'll get to why in a minute. First, let's bring in the puppeteers, the master manipulators and cowards of the galaxy.
The Pearson's puppeteers, yes. The one we're focused on is called the hindmost. He used to be a major political leader, but now he's stranded on the Ringworld. His defining trait is his paralyzing fear. He literally goes into a coma when he's too scared. But he owns a very, very fast ship called the Hot Needle of Inquiry.
So he's a useful, if unreliable, pawn. He's all intellect and no courage. Then we have the warrior species, the Kleon.
Louis's old companion, Jmi, is a Kleon, and his son, Acolyte, has been sent to Louis to learn wisdom, which is a huge sign of respect in their culture. There's a great little detail where Louis observes that most Kleon find clocks and calendars insulting, but the ones who live in space worship them because you can't manage orbital mechanics without precise timing.
A nice clash of culture and physics. And finally, the authority figures trying to clamp down on all this chaos. The ARM.
The ARM, right. They're hunting Louis, but they're also trying to manage this escalating conflict called the Fringe War. The two detectives we meet, Roxane Gauthier and Oliver Forestier, represent that powerful bureaucratic arm of the UN trying to impose order on a place that defies it.
So you have the fugitive, the coward, the warrior, and the cops. And all of them are circling around this central biological mystery, the pack protector transformation. This is where the story gets really weird.
It really does. The mechanism for this change is surprisingly simple. It's a virus, a symbiotic virus that lives in the root of a plant called the Tree of Life. On the Ringworld, you can find this root in chambers hidden beneath the map of Mars.
And if you eat the root,
If you are a hominid of the right age and genetic lineage, eating the root triggers a complete metamorphosis. You don't just get stronger, you become an entirely different kind of being, a protector.
so what does that mean to be a protector?
It means your entire purpose shifts. You lose your gender. Your primary overwhelming instinct, a compulsion coded into your brain, is to protect your direct descendants. You can identify them by their scent. Your entire existence becomes about ensuring the survival of your bloodline.
And there's a ruthless side to that, right?
Extremely ruthless. Protectors actively let mutations in their family line die out. They only protect the strongest, most viable offspring to keep the gene pool pure. And if a protector has no living children to protect, they usually just waste away. They lose their reason to exist.
Unless the entire species is threatened?
Then the mandate can broaden. Yes, they can become a protector of the whole species. But the core idea is that humans, and most of the hominids on the Ringworld, are an unfinished form. They're just the breeder stage, the juvenile stage of what their species is supposed to become.
They're potential, not reality. And this is why Louis Wu's age is so important.
Exactly. The transformation only works within a specific age range. If you're too young, the virus does nothing or kills you. If you're too old, the root is a poison. Louis, after his rejuvenation, is in this weird limbo. He's physiologically at an age where he could be changed, but he's too young for it to happen naturally. It makes him a perfect target for anyone who wants to force the change on him.
Let's talk about the physical change. It's pretty dramatic.
It's horrifying, really. The soft tissues of your mouth, your lips and gums, they harden and fuse together into a beak. Your skin becomes thick and wrinkled like armor. It's a hardening of the entire body.
But the biggest change is in the mind. It's the end of doubt.
That's the real trade-off. Your brain undergoes this. High-order synthesis. You gain this absolute clarity for any problem, military, social, ecological. The right answer just becomes obvious, self-evident, and you are compelled to execute that perfect solution without question or hesitation.
You're trapped by being right all the time, which is why the Ringworld natives call them the Vashnation.
Right, which means wizards or magicians. Because to a normal breeder, their competence is so total it looks like magic. They're never wrong because their logic is driven by that one single mandate. Survival of the bloodline. All emotion, all personal desire is gone.
And this brings us to the two main protectors who are running things at the repair center, the brain of the Ringworld. We have a kind of triumvirate, but two of them are really in charge.
First, you have Toonsmith. He's a ghoul, one of the night people. He's a product of that hominid evolution we talked about, filling the jackal niche. And he's the current protector in charge of the repair center.
And he has a very strange connection to Louis Wu.
Louis basically created him. On a previous trip, Louis forced the protector change on him to get rid of the last protector, a vampire named Bram. So Toonsmith is young, arrogant, a master manipulator, and an engineering genius. He actually figured out how to replicate Carlos Wu's nanotech, so he's incredibly dangerous.
And he's a stark contrast to the other major player, Proserpina.
Proserpina is ancient. She's a true pack protector from the original species. She claims she helped build the Ringworld millions of years ago. She was imprisoned for millions of Phalons in an isolation zone.
We should probably define a Phalon.
Good point.
Yeah.
A Phalon is a Ringworld unit of time, about 75 Earth days. So when we say millions of Phalons, we're talking about a truly geological timescale. She has knowledge of the Ringworld's oldest systems that nobody else does.
So you've got this conflict between the young, nanotech-savvy upstart, Toonsmith, and the ancient systems-level expert, Proserpina, and this tension explodes in Section 3 when the Fringe War threatens to tear the whole structure apart.
The Fringe War is this chaotic, escalating conflict happening out in the comet cloud around the Ringworld system. You have ships from at least half a dozen species, the ARM, Kizin, and others, all fighting each other.
And what are they fighting over?
The Ringworld itself. The technology is a prize beyond measure. Imagine getting your hands on Skrith armor, or cheap, limitless fusion power from the solar collectors, or the spin motors. Any one of those things would make a species dominant in the galaxy.
So the war is accelerating toward a singularity, a point of no return, and the biggest danger is the weapons they're using.
Antimatter. The ARM ships specifically use antimatter bullets, and even though Skrith is impossibly strong, it has no defense against matter-antimatter annihilation. A single stray shot could puncture the floor.
And if the floor gets a hole in it?
The atmosphere vents into space with incredible force. It creates these things called eye storms, basically giant tornadoes turned on their side that can scour the landscape for thousands of miles. It's the single biggest threat to the 3 million Earths of life on the Ringworld.
So Toonsmith, watching all this from the control room, has to get creative with his defense.
He becomes a pirate, basically. He takes the hindmost ship, the Hot Needle of Inquiry, repairs its hyperdrive, and then boosts the thrusters beyond all safety limits, turning it into a dangerously fast interceptor. He's trying to manage this whole war from the shadows, using the idea of a triumvirate with himself, Proserpina, and Louis to try and forge alliances.
But his real genius comes out when he starts investigating the physics of hyperdrive, the blind spots, and the predators.
This is a really deep, fascinating part of the lore. Toonsmith figures out that close to a star, the intense gravity warps spacetime so much that it lowers the effective speed of a hyperdrive. It creates these dangerous blind spots where you can't travel effectively.
But it's more than just a navigational hazard, isn't it?
Oh, much more. His protector-level intellect extrapolates a terrifying conclusion, which the hindmost confirms. He theorizes that there are predators, life forms, eaters, that live in the warped spacetime in the dark matter halo around stars.
So they feed on ships that get stuck in that warped space.
Precisely. The singularity near a star isn't just a physics problem, it's a hunting ground. The fact that he could figure that out shows you the cognitive leap a protector takes. It's incredible.
He's brilliant, but he also needs a brute force solution to the antimatter punctures, the meteor defense system.
The original system was too slow. It used lasers powered by solar flares. Toonsmith repurposes the infrastructure under Mons Olympus, which is the tallest mountain on the Ringworld, 40 miles high.
He turns a mountain into a weapon.
He turns it into a linear accelerator, a giant railgun, and he uses it to fire these enormous XX large meteor plugs. We're talking half-mile wide packages of Skrith at the holes.
So he's not shooting at the ships, he's patching the floor.
Exactly. It's a repair system. The plugs slam into the holes and use nanotech to instantly weave themselves into the existing Skrith, sealing the puncture before a major ice storm can form.
The scale of that is it's breathtaking. And we see just how effective and dangerous it is when Louis tries to deceive the ARM detectives.
Right. Louis is pretending to be a young Ringworld native, Louis Tamasan, to try and get close to the ARM ship, the Snail Darter, which is investigating one of these fresh punctures.
But the deception goes wrong.
It goes very wrong. The ARM agents, Roxanne and Oliver, try to capture Louis and his companion Wembleth, and they make a run for it. Their escape plan is to fly the Snail Darter out through the very hole that Toonsmith is actively trying to patch.
A hole that's shimmering and closing.
Louis sees it and tries to warn them. He knows what's happening. Toonsmith's reweaving system, these nanotech Skrith threads, are already lacing across the hole. It's not a laser, it's more like a net that's tightening.
And the ship gets caught.
It gets caught and just disassembled. The system tears the ship apart, ripping the underside off. Oliver is killed instantly. And the ship's battery explodes, which is a stark reminder to everyone of just how dangerous even a small antimatter power source is in this environment.
That incident really highlights the two core themes: the fragility of the Ringworld and the cold, terrifying efficiency of the protectors. And it catapults Louis directly into Section 4, into his own forced evolution.
After the crash, Louis panics and attacks Roxanne. He gets stunned and wakes up completely immobilized inside an ARM medical autodock aboard their carrier ship, the Grey Nurse. But then that ship gets captured.
By Proserpina.
By Proserpina's forces, yes.
Yeah.
The Spill Mountain Protectors. And she immediately recognizes who Louis is. She sees he's been rejuvenated, that he's the perfect age, and she realizes he's the key to everything.
I didn't hesitate.
Not for a second. She needs a powerful ally who isn't loyal to Toonsmith. So she forces the change. She feeds him the Tree of Life root and triggers the Protector metamorphosis.
And this is the moment his biological destiny catches up with him. And through his new eyes, we see Proserpina's ultimate goal.
Her goal is to save the Ringworld by moving it. She uses Louis's new Protector consciousness to confirm her plan. Use the Ringworld's own superconductor grid and massive fusion motors, which are part of the original design, to literally accelerate the entire structure and fly it out of the war zone.
Move a structure with the massive Jupiter.
Yes, a plan that would take about 2 Phalons, or 150 Earth days, to implement. But in his new state of Protector clarity, Louis also understands something deeply personal, something about his past with Tila Brown.
Ah, yes, Tila Brown and her engineered luck.
He realizes that his companion, the young native Wembleth, is his son, an N-child. He was conceived by Tila before her long-term sterility shots had taken full effect. And with his Protector brain, Louis finally understands Tila's luck.
It wasn't random, it was a genetic trait.
It was an engineered survival trait. And he remembers her final act, getting herself killed to free him and the others from the last Protector. Louis now believes in her luck as a scientific principle. He sees that Wembleth and his children are, in fact, the Ringworld's luck. Their survival is key to the Ringworld's future.
And that realization leads him directly to the central conflict of the story, the paradox of protection.
This is the absolute core of it. Louis realizes that to save the Ringworld, he cannot be a Protector. Because if he remains one, his absolute hardwired instinct will be to protect his own bloodline Wembleth and also the pregnant Roxanne, who might be carrying his child.
He'd be forced to prioritize them over the 3 million Earths of other people. His objectivity would be gone.
Completely. And that would endanger the whole structure. The only logical course of action for him as a Protector seeking the best outcome for the Ringworld is to stop being a Protector. It's a perfect logical loop that can only be broken by an act of will.
So he uses his last few moments of godlike intellect to pull off one final brilliant deception, the final betrayal.
He acts like a Protector, but he's thinking like a human. He manipulates the terrified hindmost into stealing the nanotech autodock and prepping the long shot for escape. And then he deliberately leaves scent traces of his children, Wembleth and Roxanne, for the other Protectors to find.
He's planting false evidence. To what end?
To give Toonsmith and Proserpina a perfectly logical but completely wrong conclusion. They will find the evidence and assume that Louis, the new Protector, has seen the future, calculated that the Ringworld is doomed, and is now fleeing to save his own bloodline.
And if they think a fellow Protector believes the situation is hopeless,
it forces them to act immediately. It gives them the final push they need to execute Proserpina's desperate, dangerous plan to move the Ringworld and end the war. His betrayal is actually the trigger for its salvation.
With his escape route clear and the other Protectors occupied, Louis makes his final, most important choice.
He gets back into the autodock, and it gives it a new command. Reverse the transformation. Rebuild him back into a breeder, back into Louis Wu. He willingly accepts the cotton feeling in his head, the loss of clarity, the return of doubt and emotion. He gives up godhood to get his free will back.
He chooses to be human again. It's an incredible moment, sacrificing that power and certainty for the messy reality of being a breeder.
And that's the choice that defines him. He and the hindmost, who is now completely convinced the Ringworld is about to be destroyed, blast out of the system on a long shot. They know they'll be hunted by the ARM forever, but they are finally free from the Ringworld gravity and the absolute crushing agendas of the Protectors.
So after all that, we've mapped a structure 3 million times the size of Earth. We've explored this bizarre evolution of humanity into ghouls and giraffe people, and we've tracked a high-speed war fought with weapons that can literally rip the sky open.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the whole story is this profound meditation on destiny versus free will. The Protectors, they operate on absolute certainty. They see the one single correct answer, and they can't deviate from it.
And Louis Wu is the opposite. He's the human who is offered that certainty and chooses to give it up. He chooses freedom, even though it comes with doubt and fear. His final act, giving up his power, wasn't a logical calculation for the greater good. It was an emotional decision to protect the freedom of his children, an act a true Protector could never make.
Which brings us to that final, provocative thought. We learned that Tila Brown's incredible luck wasn't an accident. It was a genetically engineered trait. And now her descendants, Louis Wu's children, are the Ringworld's luck.
So this raises a really interesting question for you to think about. If something as fundamental as luck can be engineered, if destiny can be designed and managed by superior minds over millions of years, is true free will even possible for anyone living in that environment?
And to bring it a little closer to home, think about this. What aspect of your life, something you considered totally random, a lucky break, a chance encounter,
Hmm.
what if it's not random at all? What if it's the result of someone else's ancient, perfectly calculated plan? That's a chilling thought, isn't it? The idea that your freedom might just be another variable in a much, much larger equation.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive. Thank you for joining us.
Until next time.